All right, let's go ahead and get into the stock market technical analysis. We're going to look at tech stocks, very important there. We also want to look at just some individual trade ideas. And if you guys are finding value in the content, drop me a thumbs up. I do appreciate that. It helps the channel. If you're interested in getting additional trade ideas, market insights, join the private member group. Link in the description below. $5 a month. Can cancel anytime. Again, in that private member group, we got long. I covered all my shorts pretty much on Monday. I posted to everyone that it made sense to cover shorts, and I personally flipped long for a bounce. But now I want to talk about that and kind of where we're at now. So again, if you're interested in market insights and really more up-to-date trading info, it's in the private member group. It's really hard for me to put out public video channel videos that have like super actionable items. Okay, triple Qs. We are bouncing. We bounced off the 200-day. So again, it makes sense to see that when we gap down Monday. I actually closed some of my short trades in the pre-market because I woke up and saw that we were gapping down huge. I had a Nvidia short. I think it was down 14% in the pre-market. So I covered all those shorts, and it makes sense that you would overshoot the 200, but you have algorithms, you have institutional traders that are just going to buy at the 200. You almost want to expect at least a reaction on the 200-day simple moving average, on that first tag of it at least, especially when you haven't visited it in a long time. If I roll out, you can see, we haven't hit the 200-day moving average really since back here in February of 2023. So more than a year and a half we haven't visited it. So the first tag of it, which was on Monday, makes sense to see a pretty strong bounce. And so far, it's been a decent bounce. But where are we coming into now? If I look at the triple Qs, we have a trend line, and the trend line is a little tricky. We're looking at a daily chart. I can kind of draw the trend line in two different ways. I can draw it like this, and that would kind of, it kind of overshoots that reaction there, but I capture these ones here, and then I capture these reactions here. So I like that one. Or potentially, if I want to capture that lower reaction there, I can drag it down, and that would give me that reaction, and then we'd be, kind of capture that right there. So either way, we are bouncing. I think we're probably coming into a level of resistance here soon. The area, if you look right here, you've got, this was former resistance, and then it was support. It's about 449, 449, 450, somewhere right in there. And I can see that acting as resistance. All right. So I think this bounce is going to end right around that level. There also is a potential downtrend line. So we could kind of grind sideways and maybe even intraday pop into that resistance level there on that downtrend line and then get sold into. So that's where I think this bounce ends, is somewhere right around there, anywhere from 449 up to this downtrend line, wherever that comes into play. But I probably wouldn't want to be holding out for that downtrend line because there is strong resistance at 449. Now, the triple Qs is only as good as what is made in the triple Qs. And I think Nvidia really leads the pack right now. And if you look at Nvidia on the daily chart, you can see here, this is support. All right, this trend line. That trend line has not been broken yet. We still have a uptrend. Here it is right there. Little intraday breakdown, false breakdown essentially. But again, that triple Qs was hitting the 200 day, so it was pretty obvious that this was likely going to be a false breakdown, gapping down in the pre-market. And then sure enough, when the market opens up, institutions gobbled it up. So holding trendline support, bouncing, there is a potential downtrend to watch here. And that would send Nvidia up to, to me, I think there's some resistance around 111.50 or so in that downtrend. So slightly more upside there is possible. And then I think this thing heads back down to this trend line. They'll try to hold it again, most likely. The bulls will try to buy it at the trend line. But ultimately, I think it is going to break trend. We need to see that first for that more major sell signal on Nvidia. Amazon was a key element of some of the strong selling on earnings. For Amazon, you've got this big island cluster top. So the bulls are trapped right now in Amazon, and I don't think they're going to let the bulls out that easily. All right, I think that we're seeing a counter trend rally. There's some resistance as far as I can tell. There's this gap area, and it's about 165.92. Well, it's about 160. Yeah, about 166, we'll call it. So we push there. We could come up and back test the trend line. That's probably end of the road for Amazon on this rally. So I don't see too much more upside. Potentially, if I measure it out, maybe from where we're at, it's about maybe 2% more upside potential on Amazon before most likely I think we push lower to the next level of support. I see some support down here at 144. The big thing about Amazon for me is the weekly chart. When you look at the weekly, and this is going to, this will be interesting to see how we close the week. We have an uptrend line on the weekly chart. Right now, we're trading below it. They saved it last week here, holding trendline support, but gapping down this week. So they've got to recover that. They've got to do a lot of work to get it back to that trend line and close the week up there. And so if it does that, then then Amazon's still safe, and we could continue higher and probably go on to make a new high, to be honest. But otherwise, if the week closes down below the trend line, that's a weekly sell signal, a breakdown on the weekly chart, which should bring in much more selling over the next weeks, months, even maybe a year or so. So watch for that one. Google. Again, Google coming close to the 200-day. It hasn't actually hit it yet. Buyer stepped in a little early. So resistance on Google, I think, is right here. You can see there's some reactions right in that area. And it's about 163-ish, somewhere right in there. Up to, maybe up to about 164.50. Right in there looks to be resistance. And then I believe we'll probably push down into the 200-day and hit that 200-day. Tesla, again, Tesla's pushing into resistance. You can see here support, and it's right there. And the 200 days just right there as well. So we're pushing into that 203.50 resistance area. I expect it to get rejected here and then continue lower. All right, and next level support, you've got a little bit of support right here, about 168 on that level. And then more support down here about 147. So I do believe Tesla is heading lower. Apple bouncing off, good support really. I mean, you could see here, I had it kind of circled out, but you've got support right there about 198. I mean, look at all those reactions. So that was resistance, and it's support now. And that's exactly where Apple held up. So still holding support, rallying up. I would say gap fill. The targets for the rally for Apple would be either gap fill. You could even really look at the low here. Actually, not even. Oh, let me make sure I can get that right there at about 214.50 or so. Potential back test of the trend line, but I don't think we're going to get that. Microsoft, you did get a daily close below the 200. We're pushing back into the 200-day moving average. I have a feeling this is going to hold as resistance here for Microsoft. So potential for a back test, that would be, max upside would be a back test of this broken trend. If it wants to do it, that would be a key. That would be an objective area to short, right about that 433 area. Yeah, that's the upside. But as of right now, it is rallying into the 200-day moving average from below. So that should act as resistance right there. Meta didn't hit the 200-day moving average. It's popping above resistance. Resistance I had at right about there, which is 493.50. Above it right now. So I'm kind of watching that. I think we might get they might sell into the close today and bring this back down. And then ultimately that would prove as resistance. And I do think we're heading back down to the 200-day. Haven't hit that 200-day yet. So I do think that's where this one's heading. But again, I need to see how I'd be looking for that end of the day close. Do they start to sell this thing down and push it back down? Okay, let's look at some of the sectors. Starting off with financials, XLF. Holding support, all right, and I'm kind of cleaning up my chart as I go, but support is this trend line right here. Several reactions there. We hit it on Monday, kind of undercut it, but they've snapped it right back. We're holding support. Okay, so until that trend line goes, there's no major sell signal. There is some resistance from what I can tell right about current levels. It's about 41.70. And yeah, so I'm looking for the financials to start to sell down. And when I flip over to some of the key financials, JP Morgan being the largest, JP Morgan is rounding into resistance. All right, so there you go. That was former support, and we're rallying right there into resistance. That's an objective short right there. So there's a trade idea. I do believe it's going to be rejected here. Come back down to support, which is about 190. Maybe a minor reaction, but ultimately I think you probably don't bounce much there. You probably just kind of hold there for a few days and then continue lower down to about 180.10 in the 200-day. All right, so that's the trade idea on that one. Visa is the second largest stock in the financials, XLF, and Visa is clearly in a downtrend. I mean, we peaked here back in March, and we are making lower highs and lower lows. So trending lower below the 200-day moving average. You know, we got rejected there a couple days ago. So in general, this should continue lower. I don't see any signs of a reversal or really anything. There's not even really any bullish divergence on the PPO, and not really. It's slightly there on the RSI, but again, I think we have lower prices here in Visa. I've got some support right about there at 254. So you take that out, it should head down to the next level. And yeah, so I'm seeing more lower prices in the financials. XLV, this is our healthcare. So this is the second largest sector outside of tech. And on XLV, we have a trend line to watch right there. Okay, so we've got, let me kind of clean this up, but you can see we've got support all through here. There's support and holding support as of right now. So XLV still, the trend's still intact. I mean, there's been no technical damage to this. So bottom line, that's really it. We do have negative divergence though. So watch for that break of trend, and that's going to be a sell signal in the financials, in the healthcare. And I really think one of the main mania stocks for the financials is Eli Lilly, LLY, I keep saying financials, healthcare. You can see this uptrend line right here though, clearly taken out. There's your sell signal. We are rallying right now into resistance. All right, there's your resistance. So right there, if it breaks above this resistance, you're probably going to go back test the trend line. Okay, it's objective to short on a back test of that trend line for sure. It's actually objective to short right here. All right, so you could short here for a push down to the 200-day, and there's support down there at 728.50. You can see nice clean support right in there. Or it could backtest. The problem is earnings are coming up, and we're right there kind of in the middle of some major ranges. So if earnings are good, then it's going to backtest. If earnings are bad, it's going to break down to the 200. And we're right in the middle. It's not objective from from my perspective, yes, it's objective right here at resistance, but not ahead of earnings. I'd probably prefer to wait. And if it wants to rally, I'd look to short it up there. That would be the best trade, is to short it right there at the on a back test. Industrials, XLI holding support. You can see kind of a horizontal support. So until that goes, there's no sell signal here. All right, and and it can just continue higher. So no reason to be short on that one until we see a break of trend. There's a trade set up here on this NTR. Earnings coming out tomorrow, it looks like. Yeah, tomorrow. So obviously higher risk, but what I see in the chart is it's likely going to bounce on earnings. So I see a pretty crystal clear downtrend line on the daily chart. You can see lots of reactions, and then it did break out, and it's basically been backtesting that trend line from above. You know, back testing there, there's another back test, and every time you hit the trend line, it bounces. And we're back testing again, and we're right ahead of earnings. So if earnings are good, it's probably going to push up, you know, right into the 200-day moving average. And then ultimately, I think it's going to break above and continue to rally. So that's a long. It's objective to be long. It is higher risk, though, because you do have earnings, and it can go either way. Gold and, you know, gold miners. Again, I don't see any real reason to be long the gold miners right now. Again, I think we're probably going to push lower in the markets, and it should drag the gold miners down with it. And again, until we break out on the weekly chart, let me show you guys again. Here's your weekly chart. We've got a big isometrical triangle. So a big isometrical triangle, and it's got a breakout on the weekly chart, and it actually kind of false breakout there, and then it's failed. So it looks like it's going to head down to the lower end of the triangle, and until I see a breakout on the upper end, that's the way I believe it's going to go. Okay, that's all I got for today. I'm going to get the video out there. And one thing I did want to cover, if I look at triple Qs, you know, it does look like we're pushing up into resistance, you know, about now. You see on the weekly chart, could go a little higher. Again, I did talk about that 449, so that's obviously a full back test. But you see on the weekly, we've broken trendline support. So unless they can recover it this week, then we have a break on the weekly chart. And that tells me that we are going to head lower. So they might leave everyone guessing by the end of the week and kind of close it right about that 449 and just close it there. And then we'll have to wait and see till next week. And that's definitely a possibility. And then we will just pick it back up. So otherwise, if they hit the 449 and then it gets sold into and rejected, we have a sell signal on the weekly chart, which should mean we're going to head back down to the 200, ultimately break and head, you know, a lot lower. All right, there's lots of levels below, but I do think we're probably, if I roll out on the weekly chart, this is going back to 2009. There's COVID. There's another reaction right through there, and I do think we would work our way down to that major trend line, which would be, you know, wherever we actually hit it, but 372 or so. All right, I'm going to wrap it up. Get the video out. Drop me a thumbs up on your way out. Catch you on the next.